So let's begin now. So for now, if you check, our site is blank. We don't have anything yet because we haven't put anything into index.php. We have just defined our different set of functions. We defined our constants in the previous video. Then we went ahead and defined our custom function and used the WP Enqueue scripts hook to include our style sheets and script files. Okay, and that's what we've done so far. And we've created different set of files, JavaScript files, and then CSS files. All of this, we created this images folder. In the previous video, we created functions.php, screenshot.png, style.cs, and index.php files. Okay, so let's continue further then. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create our include folder, include directory, inc. And what we're going to do is we will create a file called custom header.php. So let's create a file, custom header.php. This is to include the basically the functions for the headers of our theme. Okay, custom functions for header of our theme. I'm just going to go ahead and paste this. Okay, so I'll explain to you in a bit as to what this is. So over here we have defined a function called Cornova header style. Okay, and this function basically styles the header images and the text displayed on the blog. Okay, so you can see header text color is equal to get header text color, and then you have the constant over here, which is checking if header text color is equal to head color, and then you have this style inline style that is over here. Okay, and all of that stuff. So it styles the header image and text displayed on the blog. This will be clear to you in some time, but just as you know that we need to define this. And I'll explain to you in some time as to what all is done over here. Okay, so you can pause the video and just copy paste this code. Okay, and let's continue further. Okay, now obviously to include this file, this particular file, all of the file in the directory, what we need to do is we need to go to our functions.php and we need to go ahead and include that. So what I've done over here, I've created a variable called Cornova dependencies, and I'm using apply filter, and then I'm defining this custom hook Cornova dependencies, and I'm passing this particular array into it, just in case if the user want to append the value of this array, insert some more items into that using a child theme or plugin, they can do that. That's why I'm using apply filter. So if the user doesn't if another developer doesn't use a child theme and uses a custom function to hook into this particular hook, then this array value will be returned out of this apply filters, and that's what will be available inside of this. But if they go ahead and use a custom function to change this value, modify this value, then the modified value will be returned by this apply filters function. So in this case, this will be returned. Cornova temp directory is basically going to give us the path up until the root of our theme, and this is the include folder, and this is the admin folder path. Okay, so let's create an admin folder, which we will need later. Okay, and I'm using the for each loop, and I'm saying that loop through this entire array and each item as the path. So this is going to give me one path, two path over here. So this loop is going to run 2 times, and then it's saying for each glob path as file name. Okay, so what this is going to do is, so if you check what this glob function does, the glob function returns an array of file names or directories matching a specified pattern. Okay, so it accepts a parameter called pattern, which is required, and flags is optional. So if you pass a pattern inside of glob function, so let's say you pass a pattern like star.txt, then it's going to return an array which is containing all the files inside of that directory with the matching patterns. Okay, so since this is matching the pattern of .txt, hence it's going to show. All right, so because these files are matching this pattern, just .txt, which is why all of the files that are there in that directory will be listed in form of an array elements. Okay, so that's what is happening over here. So we are saying that glob path as file name. So if we go ahead and print path, we can see that this is the path and this is the pattern, star.php, which means include all the files inside of the include folder that is ending with .php. So this is the pattern basically. Okay, and this is a pattern which is path. This is the pattern.php, star.php. Okay, and it's going to return the array. Okay, so if we go ahead and print the glob path, we can see that we are getting all the files in form of an array. So since there is only one file inside of this folder, include custom.header.php, that's why we are getting the name of that file, entire path of that file, only one. If it had more, then we'd have got more. Okay, and since the admin folder doesn't have anything, so that's why we don't have anything for the admin folder. Okay, so file name will be equal to this entire path over here. So include function is going to include that particular file name. So that's what is going on over here. So what will happen is instead of defining each of the files, include then that file name, by going ahead and putting this set of codes, piece of code over here, this will ensure that anytime you add a new file in these folders, then they will all be included automatically. You don't have to include them and increase the number of lines of code. Okay, cool. So let's continue further then. Now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and create our custom functions.php. So we created functions.php earlier. Now let's create a custom functions.php inside of this include folder. Okay, so, and as we all know that since we have used this particular for each loop, since I'm going to create a custom function.php, it will automatically be included, so we don't have to include it separately. Okay, so let's create that. This is to write our custom functions. We don't want to make our function.php too long, and let's keep our custom functions over here. Okay, so we got our custom functions.php and we'll go ahead and write different set of codes inside that. There are different codes that you need to write, different functions you need to decide, define, but I'm not gonna go over them all over at one go, so don't worry about it right now. Just understand that there is custom functions.php you need to create, and in a bit I will discuss these functions. Okay, so let's continue further then. Then what we need to do is we need to create a header and footer.php file. Okay, we will always keep our header and footer separately, so that later on we don't have to worry about writing those codes again. We can just call our functions get header and get footer, which is a WordPress function, to include those files automatically. So let's create that into the root directory of our theme, which is header.php and footer. Okay. Footer.php. Okay. So you got a header and a footer.php files. Okay, now let's include the codes inside of them. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and go to index.php and just include these codes. So we go on to our index.php. So first is the description of the file. So this is the main template file. Okay, this is the most generic template file in a WordPress theme, and one of the two required files for the theme, the other one being style.css. We already discussed this, that to make a theme, the most important file which are required, without which the theme cannot be made, are the style.css and index.php. That's what it's talking about over here. Now it is used to display a page when nothing more specific matches a query. Now if you go to WP hierarchy, You will notice there are different template files in WordPress. You have the archive templates, you have single page template for posts, you have the error page template, then you have search page template. All of the different template files are there. Now, the default for all of the files is index.php. So that's why it is the most important file in the WordPress theme. Okay. So we'll discuss about this WP hierarchy in a bit, but just to show you that this is the default of all the files. So if this is not available, for not available, index.php will be used to display the error page. If the page.php is not available, then again singular.php or the index.php will be used by default. Okay, so that's why it is one of the most important files. Okay. So it is used to display a page when nothing more specific matches a query. Okay, so if the page.php is not available, singular.php is not available, then to display a page, index.php will be used. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll call this function get header and get footer. If you go and check what's happening inside of this function, so you can see that it's using the do action hook get header and name, and then it's using the locate template function to include the template file, which is header.php over here. Okay, so it's going to include the header.php, and similarly for footer, get footer also, we're using a do action hook so that the custom function can be hooked over here. But again, it's using footer.php. It's using the locate template function to include the footer.php. Okay, so these two functions, all we have in our index.php right now, just get header and get footer. So it's going to include the header and footer.php. Okay, so obviously if you go to our site right now, at the present we don't have anything, but if you just write header, okay, let's close the PHP tag, header, inside this, and you put footer, inside this, then you'll notice you have the header and the footer file included. Okay, so let's delete this. Okay, so what do we need to do next? Let's see. Now we need to write certain codes in our header.php file. So I'm just going to copy this entire set of code, put that into my header.php file. I'll explain to you what are these codes. Okay, so first is a description. The header of our theme displays all the head section and everything up until div id content. Okay, so you can see you have the doc type HTML, you have the head section, you have the body, you have the div inside of that, and then up until the opening of the content div. Okay, and displays all the head section of and everything up until div id content. Okay, and let's do that for footer as well, and then I'll explain to you what all these functions and different set of codes which are being used over here. You can anytime pause the video to copy these, write these codes. Okay, so let's talk about the very first function, language attribute. So what does this do? So language attribute displays the language attributes for the HTML tags. So what it does is it echoes the lang is equal to enus. Since at this moment English language is being used, hence it displays the enus. So let's go ahead and refresh the page. Okay, I think we have something missing. Let me just check one moment. Alright, so I've fixed those errors basically. Okay, so you can see over here that we've got our header and footer included. If you check inspect element, we've got the head section, and we've got our footer as well. Okay, so we've got all of that. Now, what we were discussing earlier was inside of the header, this language attribute. So if you notice inside of the HTML tag, this lang enus is coming from this language attribute function. And then inside of the meta char set, you have the blog info char set. Okay, so let's see what it does. So blog info charset displays the encoding of the page and feeds. So it echoes the UTF-8. So if you notice, charset UTF-8 is being echoed by this particular function. Okay, so blog info function is basically allows us to get a lot of data from our database. So if I go ahead and search blog info, sorry, function, it displays information about the current site. So you can pass different parameters inside of this and you can get different information. You can pass the name to get the site title, you can pass description to get the tagline. In our case, we are passing a char set, so we are getting the UTF-8, which is the encoding for the pages and feed. And this is set in the settings reading section. So if you go to admin, okay, and if you go to settings, inside the reading section, then you will be able to. Okay, so under the reading section, so the encoding of these pages and feeds is done by the the block char set. Okay, and it always echoes the UTF-8, which is the default encoding for WordPress. All right. Now the next function that we have the WP title, which is going to give us the title. So WP display the WordPress site title. So if you notice right now, okay, we have the title as blank because I think we haven't set that. So WP title function is basically display the title of the site, but for now I'm not using that. Okay, so right, and then you have the WP head function. Okay, so the WP head function provides a WP head hook at this point where it is called so that our styles and scripts can be loaded and or included at this play and plugin at this point. And plugins or child themes can hook into their custom functions at this point. So if you look at codex, if you check, sorry, if you look at the core, you can see that it's defining a do action function and defining this WP head hook so that our custom functions can hook onto the style sheets and the scripts files over here at this point. And remember that WP head function needs to be just before the it needs to be called just before the head tag. That's very important, otherwise it can break certain things. All right. So now if you go ahead and check, if you do inspect element, or if you check the page source, okay, there were different style sheets and scripts we had included foundation.css. So let's see if we have that. So we have foundation.css, we have normalized.css, and we have style.css, right? We have jQuery.js because we put that as dependency, right? And then we have the modernizer.js. Okay, then at the bottom we should also have the modernizer.js. Sorry, this was in the header section, so this will be in the header section. Then we should have the foundation.min.js file included. So let's search that. You can see that we have that. We have the app.js, main.js, all of that included. Yep, app.js, main. So all of this is happening with this function that we discussed in the previous video. All right. So let's continue further. In the header.php, we have discussed all of these functions. Now the body class function. So what does this do? So the body class function displays the classes of the body element depending on which page the user is using the get body class function. Okay, so depending on which page the user is, the body class function displays a different set of classes in the body tag. So if you check the body tag right now, I'm having the these set of classes being displayed over here, depending on which side which page the user is on. Okay, and then we have the div going on over here, and then we have the a tag, inside of which we have the link, and this escape HTML e basically escapes the HTML and also echoes it out. So instead of typing echo escape HTML, we can just use one function, escape HTML, and it's just going to go ahead and echo out and escape the HTML as well. Again, it accepts the theme slug as well as the second parameter and the string you want to escape and echo. All right, so you have that skip to content, and that's what we have. We should have over here. Let's just see, one moment. And this class basically reader.text is actually hiding the skip to content text. Okay, and then you have the masthead, and we have the corner site branding. So this is a custom function we have defined. So if we check that function, what's going on inside this function, we are checking if the function does not exist. The reason why we do this, we first check before defining a function whether it exists or not, is because as we all know, if another developer or even myself, if I create a child theme, the functions.php of a child theme will load first. Okay, so by checking if the function doesn't exist, we are allowing our theme to be pluggable by the child. We are allowing our functions of a theme to be pluggable by the child theme, because let's say that the child theme comes and defines the corner site branding again in the functions in its own functions.php file. So because the functions.php file of the child theme loads before the parent, at the top, if you define corner site branding, then this function won't work over here, because this set of code will not be executed. It says if the function exists, which in that case will exist, because if the child theme is defining the same function name, that function will already be present on top, and this set of code will not be executed. So that's how the child theme can override the parent theme function by defining it with the same name, and that's a benefit of checking if the function doesn't exist before defining it. And the second benefit would be that to ensure that it doesn't clash with any other functions if they were already existing. And we also use the namespacing to ensure that our function doesn't clash with any other functions with WordPress. Okay, so inside of this function corner site branding, we have the site title variable, which is equal to the site logo variable, which is blank first, and then we are checking if the custom logo function doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, then go ahead and make this variable equal to get custom logo. So this is going to give the custom logo what we're going to define in the customizer. Okay, at this moment we don't have any custom logo because we have not really used a certain set of function to do that, but it'll be coming handy later on. Okay, and then we have the site title get blog info name. So this is going to give us return the name of the site title. Okay, and then let's leave this set of code, we'll explain that a bit later. Okay, and then title class, so it's going to check if the site logo has any content. If it is, then it will be equal to screen reader text. Okay, so let's leave these set of codes for now. Okay, so then we are saying the site logo arguments array a image tag, and we're passing all of these arguments. Then we are using the wp kisses function. And what does this function do? So let's have a look. Okay, so it's just opening. This function makes sure that only the allowed HTML element names, attributes names, and attribute values plus only sane HTML entities will occur in the string. Okay, so what this is going to do is going to go ahead and accept two parameters. First is the site logo, and second is the allowed HTML arguments. So this is going to check whatever the site logo is. Okay, it should contain these set of HTML attributes. Okay, so that's what it's saying over here. This function makes sure only allowed HTML element names, attribute values plus the same HTML identity will occur in the string. Okay, so we are doing this for the security purposes. Okay, and then we are checking is front page, which means is the user on the front page of the site, and is he on the home page of the site. If he is, then we are going ahead and using escape attribute to escape the class basically, and then escape URL to escape the URL, escape HTML to escape the site title, and basically just displaying the site title. And if he is not on the home page, then we are going ahead and displaying the site title as well, but with the h2 tag, so a little bolder. Okay, and then you have the site description, which is a description class, which we will discuss later. So basically this function is to display the logo of the site and the title of the site. Okay, so once we have that, so you can see in this scenario, because we are on the home page, on the front page, okay, then this set of code is executed and echoed out, which is the h1 tag with site title, h1 tag with the site title, inside of which we have the a tag, which displays the site title. You can see that escape HTML site title, the site title will be equal to WordPress, and that's what is coming on from customizer site title. So whatever you put over here will be displayed over there. Okay, so if we save it, publish it, refresh it, you can see it's changed. All right, let's put that back to WordPress. Okay, so the next set of functions, let's see. Then we have the a tag, which is the site navigation for the mobile menu and all of that. And then we have the site navigation hook for the primary menu. Let's see if that's what we have. So we have the mobile menu and the primary menu. Okay, and then we have the WP Nav Menu Function, which is going to display the menu. So if we check, so I'm going to check that on the codex. WP Nav Menu Function. So it displays the navigation menu. Okay, so this function basically displays the navigation menu, and that's what it is doing now. So you have the primary menu, menu class, menu ID, all of these different parameters are there, and it takes a set of arguments. It takes menu class, menu ID. Okay, all of this information is taken by this particular function. Okay, to display the menu. So this menu that you have over here is coming from here. Okay, and this menu, this primary menu, is actually being displayed because of that. Okay, but this function only goes ahead and displays the navigation menu on the front end. It doesn't actually provide you with the menu section on the back end. Okay, in order for us to show that on the back end on the admin dashboard, we need to use register nav menu function. Okay, and that actually shows and displays it on the back end over here. You can do it two ways. Either you use register nav menu function, or you can just use the add theme support menu function. Okay, and I'll discuss this later on as to how this works basically, but just to give you a gist of it, inside of functions.php, we define our custom function Ganesh.setup, Ganesh_setup. We use the hook basically, which is after theme setup hook. Okay, and we hooked this custom function to this hook, and inside of which we call the register nav menu function, all the other add theme support functions. So we'll discuss that later. but just to tell you that you can do that. Let's just comment this out for now. And if you go to add theme support menu, and go ahead and uncomment that out. Okay. So you can see if we've commented out the add theme support menus, then the menu part is gone, the menu section is gone. But if we bring this back into our custom functions.php, then we'll have our menu sections again. Okay, so basically, if you you want to go ahead and add the menu support on the back end, you can either use the add theme support function with the menu as the feature, or you can just go ahead and use the function called the register nav menu that we just showed it to you. Okay, and then you can call that function inside of a custom function and hook that up to after theme setup hook using add action function. Okay, so let's continue further. We were discussing the header dot php, and this particular function was responsible. WP nav menu function was responsible for displaying this on the front end. Okay, the menus. Okay, and then we have the so let's just comment this out. We don't need this right now. Okay, and then we have the ending section of the header tag, and then we have the div class with a grid container, and then content div is starting over here. All right. So up until now, this is what we have. All right. In the next video, we will discuss further.